What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to try to get all this stuff finished up, nice, sanded down, cleaned, painted, I don't know if you watched the last video or not, but we got our turbo kit done, hot side and downpipe and all that stuff done. That was really a butt kicker, but kind of once I stepped back and looked at what all was done after that, I realized we really made some progress with that, Not trying to sound crazy or nothing, but we just, yeah, we made a lot of progress, and we don't have like too much heavy lifting left, if that makes any sense. We just got, wiring, fuel system plumbing, and a lot of odd and end stuff. I kind of go over what all we've got to do today, what we've done, just kind of piddling here and there. If you notice, I got my hood prop on. I'll show you all that, how I've kind of done all that bracketry and stuff here in just a second. And yeah, let me show y'all real quick. So, I really wanted to make this thing as street car as possible, and I don't know why, this is kind of a pet peeve. I do not like hood pins. I don't like having to carry around a hood prop in my trunk or something like that, So we did keep the factory hood prop, and we just kind of, these tubes right here on both sides, there's one there too. If you look, you got your factory hood adjuster, the little rubber bump stop right here. These will just go right here and weld in there like so, and they'll screw up and down, right here with this. What this is, it's just a nut with a washer that's fixed to it. And I had to tack weld it because it would spin, the nut would spin inside the washer, so I just tack welded it. And then I'll just weld it right there, and then I'll put a jam nut. I left enough height adjustment so I could put a jam nut right there so it wouldn't be, constantly vibrating up and down, this, that, and the other. So that's one thing we've got to do today. And we went ahead and got our BTR valve covers completely installed. We put I really wanted the oil fill in the front, but didn't really work out like that because my catch can is right here. And I figure it's just gonna be a much cleaner look to run the hoses under the front of the intake right here and just straight over, instead of trying to run them up behind and around here, because we're gonna already have fuel lines coming in the backside right there. And hopefully we're going to have room for them. We'll figure that out today. That's going to be one thing we do in today's video. We'll get all this Holley stuff, our fuel injectors put in, our fuel injector rails put on and all that stuff. Get all our sensors put on our throttle body, and get some oil put in the motor and a filter spun on it. That way that's done. We've still got to yank the transmission pan off and put a sensor bung on that, a temperature sensor bung. So we're not going to put transmission fluid in at the moment. We're going to yank the pan off and do all that. And another thing is, one thing I like to do whenever I put a transmission in, and I put one of these aftermarket, right here it is, one of these aftermarket dipsticks in, I always like to verify that the level's correct. You want your level to be usually about a 1/4 inch above the pan. For your full level, that way you never run into starving your transmission with fluid, anything like that. You don't run into those issues, because things don't work good when they don't have proper lubricity, So yeah, like I said, we're gonna get this intake yanked off, and I got some Snake Eater 210 injectors. Got the fancy Pro Series, got them on sale. I know 210's big, but hopefully I'll grow into them. If you're gonna run E85 and you try to make 1,000 wheel or better, 1600s is kind of pushing it. These are the EV1 connector. And if you notice, I got the Holley, my Holley has the dual injector set up right here. And I can just plug one fuel rail off, but that don't solve but one issue. Then I still have pressure right here from boost, and vacuum leak, whatever, So what I come up with, I was going to just give me some aluminum stock and turn it down on a lathe, and just make some injector blanks. And that's what I'm still going to do eventually. But I've got to buy a grooving tool, and you know, I mean, it ain't like $50, but I'm kind of like $50 out at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm ready to kind of get this thing running down the road. Then I'll be motivated to spend some more Benjamins on it. You know, right now I'm just ready to get it running. So our solution is I keep everything, like I hoard everything. So I kept these old injectors out of God knows what, and they're the same length as the snake eater. So I'm just going to use these as my injector blanks. I'm going to air test them all first to make sure they're not leaking by. That way I don't have which it don't really matter because it's going to be going into a capped fuel rail. You know, I'm just going to cap that fuel rail on both ends. So if it does leak by, it's not really going to matter, you know. But I will air test them just to make sure they're not going to leak by. So that's what we've got for our injectors. We'll go over the fuel pump later. We got a Magnafuel 4303, the Pro Tuner pump. I got it on sale. I can't remember what they are usually. I think I got it for $375, which is like a killer deal for those things. And one other thing that I'm not sure of what I want to do with is the steam port right here for the, you know, at the front of the cylinder heads. This motor didn't come with the rear's not tapped, so it don't have the rear steam port that runs all the way to the front, thankfully. That's just one less thing to leak or, you know, give us problems. So we do just have the front one, and I don't really know what I want to do with it. In the past, I've ran it into the, you know, drilled and tapped the water pump and ran it into it. And the problem with doing that is, like, if my water pump ever goes out, if I'm doing like a drag and drive or on a cruise or something, I do not want to have to deal with drilling and tapping a daggum hole in the middle of a parking lot, you know, just for a steam vent. I know I could plug it, you know, if that ever come up, but I just don't know. I don't think you can. I think you want to run it to the discharge of the water pump and not the suction. If it was to where I could just run it to the suction, I'm going to do some research. If you can run it to the suction, I'm just going to drill and tap this neck right here and put a bung. Like I said, I don't think you can. Because I believe what will happen is it'll just push air out of here and right back into the suction. You just kind of get the whole circulating air effect, and you never really get it out of your discharge. I think that's the whole reason of putting it to the discharge side, is so therefore it kind of, you know, your air goes to the radiator and then it can later get out of the system, you know. Right here, I don't see that happening. And I may also just honestly just leave it capped, like just initially uncap it to get all the air out of it, and then cap it and then run it like that. But I don't think that's going to be a good idea, because there's going to be air in the system somewhere and it's going to work its way back up there, and then you're going to have hot spots in the head and all that. So probably won't do that now that I'm thinking about it, now that I've rambled about that. But today, I don't know, I'm hoping we can get all this stuff. We've still got a lot of welding to do, you know, right here, just blasting it in with old MIG. We're not going to get all tiggy with it today. We're just keeping it simple. We're doing MIG welding, and I'm about completely out of argon on that thing. This turbo kit, like, it ate up a whole bottle of argon. So if you wonder why having stainless welded is so expensive, especially if you're gonna have it back purged, that's why, guys. I mean, that bottle right there is, I think, 80 to 100 bucks. You know, so that's just that plus fuel going and getting it filled and all that stuff. So, well, I think that's enough rambling. I think what we'll do first is we'll get this intake yanked off, and we're not going to fully anchor her down to the engine right now. We will put the studs in it, you know, just so we can kind of center it up, but we've still got to do the wiring, and I want to run all the wiring up under this baby. But we'll get the lid put on, and we'll get the sensors in the throttle body, and I think I don't have a gasket for that, so I've got to figure something out with that. I don't know if it's O-ringed or what, or if not, I'll order a gasket. And I've got to figure out a throttle cable. I'm gonna go raid my junkyard first. I think I've got a S10 down there and a Tahoe that that's what I'll start with, and see if maybe one of those will fit. And if not, then we'll get on the old interweb and do the old search thing. But right now we'll just we'll get all this stuff yanked off real quick and get the injectors installed and intake put back on, so we don't have to worry about all the little angry pixies getting down in the engine and scoring our cylinder walls and stuff. So, all right, let's get it yanked off. All right, so now that we got this baby off, we can start getting it took apart, I just kind of got, as you can see, I just got some short little 1/4 bolts shoved up in there, just for mock-up purposes. Let's stop and talk about why I went with a low ram instead of a high ram. And it's 100% for hood clearance, because the low ram is known to make less horsepower. I mean, I'd have to watch the Richard Holdner videos, but I won't say this thing makes like 30 less horsepower or so than a high ram, you know, maybe throughout the range. I think it does kind of above 6,500, it does kind of start to pull away from the high ram, if not make the same horsepower. Not 100% sure, but for street driving, you know, a high ram would have been much better. Would have had much more torque, much more horsepower at lower RPMs, but you know, like I said, I got this thing on this lower on sale. Bought this on eBay used, and that's why it's got the custom aftermarket paint job. But I got this lower plenum on sale on eBay. I think I got it for $375, and they're usually like 600 or something. Holley will do like a super sale sometimes. They'll do like 40% off, you know. Let me set this over here. So you really gotta, you know, keep a lookout for those sales, and they don't always advertise either. I mean, what I've found is every now and then I'll just get on eBay and type in Holley EFI, and it'll pop up what's on sale usually. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start getting these injectors installed. And we also have got, I mentioned earlier that we're not going to fully bolt this thing down, but we'll set it on. Another thing is we've got to put our IAT sensor in here. This is where I'm going to put the intake air temperature sensor. I figure it being at the very back, you know, it'll give you a decent reading, and Holley engineers put it here for a reason, so I'm sure it's a good port. Not sure if it comes with this block off plate right here or not. If not, I'm going to have to dadgum buy one of those things. I don't know what that's for, honestly. Factory map sensor, that's what it's for. Unless I run a factory style map sensor, I didn't plan on running all Scarlet Solution sensors on this thing. I'm gonna keep, you know, factory sensors what I can, like that I can buy at the parts store, like the oil sensor, temp sensor. In fact, these Gen 4s come with a fuel sensor. I may try to use a factory fuel sensor, you know, just in case something does go out, I can just run to the parts store and buy it and not have to, you know, wait on shipping and all that. So I guess we'll start with just getting this thing kind of cleaned up. Never put one of these together. So looks like this is going to be our O-ring that goes around the perimeter. And these are going to be our port O-rings, I think. Let's see. I'm not sure if these are just a Holley specific thing or not. Surely they're not, you know. Let's see. It'd be nice. I know it probably would have required a lot more extra machining, but it'd be nice if you could have, you know, if a LS1 factory style gasket would work in this. But I mean, O-rings usually, I mean, unless you just rip one or, you know, break it or something, they usually are pretty robust, especially if they're Viton. Viton is a very, you know, robust material, and it's resistant to pretty much everything except for nuclear explosions, you know, of course. But there's not much resistant to that. But we got that in. Looks like it fits really good. That's a really nice fit there. I may measure this thing and just go to my local little O-ring supply and get some more of these just to have one or two. It would just suck to break this thing, you know, out on the road. I definitely overthink everything if y'all haven't figured that out yet. And but it'd be nice to have an extra one. And I guess worst case you could just cake it full of, you know, RTV and just go from there. So we'll get these rails and injectors put on it. Man, I wish these things would have cleaned up a lot nicer. Like I was tempted to spray paint it, but I just know how spray paint does on plastic. Like it don't do good. So it just, you know, I don't know if I'm just gonna put them on the inside, and I wanted to put them on the outside and put the regular ones on the inside, or put the primary ones on the inside, because it just feel like you'd have a little bit better fuel atomization right here. You know, spraying it up higher in the runner. You know, I think that's the main reason carburetors make a little horsepower than multi-port, you know, or so they say. And I think it's because of the cooling effect, just like you know, not trying to get in, not trying to open that box of worms. But I did want to use the upstream injector ports. They're a little bit higher in the runner. So we'll probably I may just get some plastic paint and just paint them, honestly. Like I don't know. These are just, I mean, just look at how scuffed they are and stuff. That's a pretty rough deal. Or I could just make some later on, you know, some injector blanks later on and just be done with it. But let's get these rails put on and everything and get it all assembled to the point we can, and then we'll call it good for now.
So if you've made it this far in the video, you know, earlier I said that I was going to sand everything down and paint it and this and that and other. Well, that didn't happen in this video. This, as you're about to see, this install, as everything I do, it turned into a all-day process. You know, it just didn't go as planned. It turns out Holley only makes these intakes for short injectors or long injectors, and you know, it probably says that very clearly in the description, but you know, like I said earlier, I bought this thing at such a good deal, I wasn't worried about, you know, even reading about what size injectors it took. I just wanted it, you know, point blank periods.
So, just my luck. You seen me test fit this thing, or these injectors and all, and this bracket's too tall, and this bracket's too short. What I could do is I could take and spend half the day cutting this and shortening it and all that, and it's still not going to be right. Or I could just space these brackets up. And I need 1/2 inch. And luckily I walked over there and I have 1/2 inch spacers, but I have 2 of them. I need 4. But I have this right here, so I should be able to cut it down. And of course my parting tool on my lathe is broke, and I need to order another one. That's what I was talking about being too cheap earlier, about not wanting to order for these injectors to make injector blanks with. So it looks like I really just need to break down and order one. But right now, I'm just going to try to cut this best I can and face it off and everything in the lathe and get us 2 more spacers, 2 more 1/2 inch spacers, and then we can go back to rocking and rolling and getting this stuff installed, hopefully. Fingers crossed, hopefully. So, after about 2 hours of making spacers and messing spacers up and cutting spacers too short, and just a little frustration here in between, we're back and we're ready to get this thing put together. And this is what we had to do. If you look, those spacers right there, the first ones I cut were 1/2 inch, or you know, I said we needed was 1/2 inch. So I went and cut 2 more that was 1/2 inch, and sure enough, you can probably see it in the time lapse. It was just a little. The rails were sitting. What were the rails doing? The rails wouldn't go down far enough, so therefore the brackets needed to come up further. And I was going to use a washer, but I mean, the first time I have to pull this thing apart in a parking lot or something dumb like that, or the washer will fall out and roll down the hottest part of the engine bay, or fall into the hottest part of the engine bay. I mean, I won't be able to get it out, or it'll hit the ground and roll 510 parking spots that way uphill. That's my luck. So instead, I just said we'll just machine some more spacers. You know, why not do it? And my little grooving tool, I told you earlier, my parting / grooving tool was on its last leg or broken, and it made 4 more cuts, and it didn't want to at all. It was tough, but we got it done, and now we've got our O-ring in, and what we done, I just put a little bit of RTV kind of in the turns and the straightaways, just a little dab or 2, And right here where it meets, I put this up front. I mean, it's all gonna be pressurized, you know, but I put, this is in the front of the intake, and I just, you know, put a little dab of RTV right there, and kind of letting that cure up a little bit before I just slam the lid on. Or I've let it cure up a little bit before I just slam, because I'm about to slam the lid on. Gosh, that was hard to spit out. But yeah, that's where we're at now. We're going to put the lid on, and I've got some, messed around and found, I got some stainless hardware. I was going to paint it black, you know, but luckily I found some stainless. It'll actually look good because there's other miscellaneous stainless hardware in the engine bay, so should look good. I am going to put a little anti-seize on it because anytime I'm putting stainless and aluminum, like I put just a little bit of anti-seize on it. I don't care if it's, I don't care if it's on my kid's bicycle, you know, I just do it. So let's get this lid put on real quick and see how it sits on the engine. I did get these port O-rings installed also, so everything should be good. Oh, and just a little thing for y'all to check. When you put your high ram together, low ram, whatever, any intake for that matter, always check your fuel rails for debris. You know, both of these were in a bag, and I may have took one out. I've had this thing for probably a year. I may have took one out 6 months ago and set it down, and it set out, you know, and got debris in it. But long story short, it had some debris in it, metal shavings and such. So I blew it out real good. And of course, I didn't realize until after I got it on, you know. And instead of taking the chance and just squirting the old air hose through it, I just pulled it back off and, you know, blew it out good. So we're, yeah, just wanted to throw that out there for you guys. So this is, I mentioned this earlier, this is my $150 or $125 eBay special lid here. Just one of those things, I can't remember how much they are new, but it's just another one of those ways just to do it a little cheaper, you know. Got to look out for those deals. Like I said, we'll just use a little RTV on this, I mean, not RTV, sorry. A little anti-sneeze on it. Not much, dab do you. Alright, so now that we got that done, we'll move over here to the car. And I'll show y'all something that I figured out while installing this thing. Like I said, I didn't even bother to download the instructions, you know, so that's why I'm kind of telling y'all this stuff. These studs right here, let me just yank one out and show it to you. They have, you know, two threaded ends. One threaded end is long, one threaded end is short. I assembled it. I didn't catch it until I was putting them in, you know, and then I seen it, I was like, hey, that looks funny. Well, then I realized, you know, that's when I realized that. What I done was I took and installed one like this with the long threads up and then one with the short threads up. Long story short, The long threads need to go up, because if you don't have enough nut engagement up top at the top of the intake. Just want to throw that out there. We're about to slap this baby on here. I have always wanted one of these Holley intakes, but it's always been way out of the budget. It still really is, but you know, we made it happen somehow. Maybe hiding it from my wife for like a year. And, yeah, I think I'm kidding, but I'm not. I like hit it across the lake in an old junk vehicle I had. And probably bought it with a stimulus check. There's no telling. There's really no telling how I come up with it. But let's see how it fits. All right. Man, that sucker looks good. You know, they're an LS. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, and some of you might disagree. An LS is not a good looking engine, really. I mean, I guess the coals being on top of the valve covers is what kind of throws it for a loop for me. So, and I still haven't mounted the coals. I may have to end up doing that, but I'm hoping I can put them over here on strut towers, you know, and still use factory length spark plug wires, because I don't want to go with no custom spark plug wires. Like when I say I want to be able to stop at a auto supply and walk in and buy stuff, these pulleys are factory style pulleys, you know, alternator, all that stuff. I don't want anything special unless I've got to have it, of course, you know. At some point you do. At some point you just can't, you know, you got to cross that line and just go with full custom stuff. But I'm hoping I can mount like I said, the coil brackets right here, and then just run factory length coil, plug wires to it, and that'll be good. But yeah, I think that's it for this one. We'll get this. Let me go over these BTR valve covers real quick. So these things, they just take factory. These are blims. I bought these. I can't remember what I gave for them, but they did come with the baffles and the ORB fittings and the plug, and it's got an oil fill over there. And they use factory grommets, you know. And if you have wore out grommets, like if you're trying to use some off some wore out valve covers, they won't countersink in here because they get too flared out. They just won't. They won't go. And the valve cover gasket, I don't know if it was just the kit I got or not, but I mean, I was having I felt like I was playing with a Stretch Armstrong doll from the 90s, you know. I mean, I was having to pull on them things and stretch on them, but we got them to fit. So long story short, you'll probably have to stretch them, you know, a good bit, but they still fit. And not sure if they seal or not, but they had plenty of compression whenever I put them on. I mean, you could see the old thing just snugging on down towards the motor whenever I was tightening the bolts. And let's see, here's the oil fill over here. I'll put it in the back. I think I'll be able to reach it just fine. You know, get a funnel right here, plenty of funnel room and all that stuff. I think that's really about it. Probably end this one off right here, guys. And the next one we're going from now we're ready to. Well, I gotta weld a little hood leveling deals. You know what I'm talking about? Don't know what they're called, but I gotta weld those on, and then we're going to tear this thing completely apart and paint the front end and all that. I gotta run to Walmart and get a drop cloth to cover the engine and the K-member and all that, try to keep all the overspray off. I'm gonna spray paint the turbine housing on the turbo and just get all that stuff done. So that'll be next video. I know this was kind of a rambling one, and I wasn't even gonna make this a video, but I mean, I figured why not? We're down here in the shop, we might as well put some filmage out there, you know. So appreciate y'all watching, and have a good one.